80 Boys College Football Show Playoff Preview Edition. Now, we already put out our playoff predictions yesterday, I think is when we got all that stuff
Yes.
done. As always, I'm Pepper, and that is Salt over there.
I like that. I didn't even notice you changed that yet. That's awesome. Yeah. Christian's got the all black on. I got the all white on. Christian, what do you want to dig into today a little bit, man? What are you thinking? Watching this North Carolina, West Virginia game, but there are some decent bowl games coming up this week. Thank God.
Yes.
What else would you like to touch on, Christian? We talk a little recruiting, maybe a little transfer portal. What do you think?
Well, let's talk. Before we get into that, Chris, let's talk about the real stuff here. The things that really matter.
Boys. Okay.
Well, I want to talk about this sign right above me here. Good Christmas gift right there.
That's awesome.
You know, so we got a new sign. So if people love the lamp, they're going to probably love the sign.
Yeah, no, that is badass. I don't know who designed the logo, but that is sick. But yeah, by the way, what did that cost?
It cost a couple $100.
Was it? Oh, I'm just curious. I know neon lights are fucking expensive, man. It's a sick looking light, dude.
$300 something dollars. I don't know.
It's worth it, wasn't it?
So was it?
It was totally worth it, though.
Oh my god, yeah. You know, like I said, I just I love sign.
That fucking crooked ass lamp back there. Yeah.
Hey man.
Speaking of things that really matter, what we get into, Christian?
To nobody's surprise, Florida State wide receiver Keon Coleman's going to enter the NFL draft. That shocks absolutely nobody, I would say, right, Chris?
No, he's going to be up there in the draft. I don't know if I think he's probably middle, back in first round, but yeah, he had a hell of a year this year. Couldn't stay healthy for the entire year, but had a shit ton of touchdowns in the time that he was on the field, though.
Yeah, as it is every year. I feel like this year's draft class is loaded with wide receivers, so it'll be good, right? It'll be good to see how they end up going to the next level and operating there. By the way, I mean, for Florida State, they've had a slew of people opting out for this bowl game. Now, Georgia's had a ton of people that have transferred and are opting out and stuff like that too. But I feel like Florida State is a little different, mainly because Florida State only has one scholarship quarterback on their roster right now. That's going to be the freshman, I think, that played earlier in the year.
Really? Okay. Interesting. Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Okay. So that'll be maybe a bloodbath.
Yeah. I saw that thing opened up, I think, at 12. Now it's up to almost 18 points. Like, I don't know. I mean, I've joked around about this, but I mean, Florida State, let alone how pissed off they are about not making the playoffs, they ain't got nobody playing in this game. I don't know why anybody would want to play. You know what I mean? Maybe just go out there, take a knee, and call it a season.
The only way I could see Florida State realistically having a shot in this game is, Georgia, when they're not playing in the playoffs, especially under Kirby Smart, they're not really up for a lot of games. I remember they played Texas a couple years back, and they got smoked by Texas. And I don't think it was so much that Texas was the better team at that point. It was just they just looked like they were partying on Bourbon Street the whole damn time. By the time they woke up and realized what was going on, the game was pretty much over.
Yeah, I think Georgia will come out. I mean, it's just, let's be honest, like Florida State doesn't really, even if they did have, I'm going to say this, if Coleman was playing, if Johnny Wilson was playing, Trey Benson, all of these guys, if they were all playing, I still don't think it would matter, though. I don't. I just think Georgia's too good, man. I just do. You could make an argument that Georgia easily could be in the playoffs right now. I still think Georgia's one of the top 4 teams in the country. I know some people are sitting out for Is Brock Bowers playing?
I think they said Brock Bowers and Amarius Mims are both sitting out. I think they were dealing with injuries. They're wanting to get healed up, and probably they're probably going to the league, I would imagine.
100%.
I don't think they're coming back.
Okay. Yeah, no, but I still think Georgia rolls by 2 touchdowns in this one, personally.
Tennessee's Joe Milton to miss the bowl NFL draft. Amalivia, I think is not how you say his name correctly. But freshman, this is good for him, right? Get him some experience here.
Tennessee fans wanted him all fucking season almost because Milton definitely didn't have the year that everybody thought as a 6-year senior. Christian, wouldn't you agree? I know there was a lot of chatter about putting this kid in.
Oh, 100%. Speaking of which, I want to look that up real quick. I want to just see I want to see, did they play that kid at all? I'm sure they
That's actually a good point. I didn't think he played at all, but
I know, we talk about this a lot, and I'm a big fan of, especially anymore. They're playing Iowa too. Wow, that's going to be a real barn burner of a game. I'm a real fan of, like, once you get like 2 or 3 losses, why don't you start the future? Start getting these kids rotated in and play them a little more. Let's look at his stats here. Yeah, Nico, I'm gonna leave you. Basically, so I think how you would. Yeah. 26 attempts, 16. He had 163 yards. So, I mean, basically, people put that up in a game. You know what I mean? True freshman. He had 1 touchdowns, no interception. So that's not too bad. Did he have anything rushing? 5 touches, no rushing touchdowns, 44 yards. So, yeah, I mean, basically, he probably played very, very sparingly.
Yeah, I think Tennessee. Joe Milton to me was a bust. I mean, that kid was a 6-year senior, had a lot of experience, just never panned out, in my opinion, for Joe Milton. He'll do well in the underwear Olympics, because he can throw the ball a mile. He's athletic, but I don't see him making a name for himself in the NFL either, personally. But that's just me.
Well, he was a little bit off of Hendon Hooker. Hendon Hooker had 3,100 yards. He only had, there it is. He had 27 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. He also had he is not Hendon Hooker. But, I mean, he didn't have a terrible season. He just didn't have that same upper echelon of Hendon Hooker type season, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Joe Milton, to me, when I watched him play, I don't know. Something about him, I don't know what it is, Christian. He just doesn't impress me. He just, for a guy that had the experience that he's had. He's a 6-year senior. I mean, just I don't know. I'm sure Tennessee fans, I know they wanted to get rid of him. They weren't impressed after that loss to Florida early in the year. Tennessee still had a decent season for Tennessee, though, in my opinion. I lost 3 games, so.
Oh, yeah. Mizzou quarterback Garcia, ex-top recruit to enter the portal. I don't blame him. Because, was it Brady Cook? Yeah, he's going to be there for at least another year, and so you're probably not. By the way, Mizzou, we touch on it. Mizzou's had a really good offseason, Chris. They've done a good job, I think, at recruiting and then also getting some guys out of the portal too.
Yeah, would you say that Mizzou? I mean, let's be honest. Mizzou, if they beat Ohio State, which I think they might in this bowl game, I think they got a good chance. Mizzou might find themselves in the upper echelon of the SEC for the years to come. I don't want to say 10 years, but you know what I mean? They kind of got something building down there, dude. For a team that we thought maybe was going to win 7 games this year, 6 games, Drinkwitz was on the hot seat before the season started, man. They've had a hell of a year and a hell of an offseason so far.
Well, they're putting you said it right, Chris. I mean, they're putting themselves into, now the expectations come, right? Mm-hmm. Now the expectations are going to start to seep in a little bit, where if they don't produce at that level, if they don't beat a Georgia, they don't beat an Alabama, somebody like that, or a Texas, or in Oklahoma, they don't, and I'm not saying those are necessarily going to be the best, 4 programs. I would just think those would probably be some of the best programs, over the next couple of years. Drinkwitz was already kind of on the hot seat, so they're not going to be very forgiving. So sometimes, and you know how it is in college football, Chris, you become a victim of your own success.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. I just think that Mizzou's kind of a scary thing. They get Luther Burden back. They get Brady Cook back. The running back, the Schrader, whatever his name is he back too, or is he?
I thought he was done. Maybe I'm wrong on that.
Had a hell of a year this year, by the way, too. But I think Mizzou, yeah. And you look at the transfer portal, the recruiting, man, they're up there. Like I said, good for Missouri, man. They haven't been relevant in probably, God, it'd be like 2010 was the last time they had like a season like this. So hats off to the Tigers this year.
Georgia lands, was it Trevor Etienne?
Yes, Trevor. Yes. Not Travis, Trevor.
Yeah, Trevor. I'm going to have to make sure that I want to say Travis all the time.
I do too. I do it anyway. Big. That to me is huge for you guys. You guys are what I would call running back you over there the last 15 years. I'm not going to rattle off the list of running backs in the NFL that are studs. That come from Georgia. But this year, you guys didn't have one of those. You guys got everything you could and asked more out of any of those running backs you guys had this year. Etienne's a damn good back. I think that helps you guys out exponentially next year with Carson Beck coming back.
I agree. Chris, they picked up some pieces. Etienne, I think, was probably one of the better running backs in the portal, so that was a huge get for them. With Georgia, they picked up another defensive lineman from South Carolina who was like a 4-star defensive tackle, so that'll be good. They've got that in there, and then they also picked up a couple receivers and Colby Young and I think Landon Humphreys from Vanderbilt too. So it'll be interesting to see what Carson Beck does with all that next year. All right, looking at some of the other games, like you said, West Virginia playing North Carolina right now. This is a good one. I think you picked UNC. I picked West Virginia.
Yeah, I did money line UNC. Basically, it was double my money. I put 50 down to win 100. UNC looks like they're going to get railroaded here. Honestly, they just don't have any. Apparently, Mac Brown does not. Obviously, this is no shock to me either. Doesn't have anything to do with defense. Just doesn't think that it exists on a football field. It's been that way since he's been at North Carolina. So I don't get it.
Well, that is, yeah. I think it's. I think it's kind of tough, anymore to really coach defense. I mean, you see it all the time. I mean, look at Lincoln Riley, Lane Kiffin. I mean, just to name a few, where they really struggled to get the defensive side of things right. They're more offensive driven.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I mean, anybody in the Big 12 doesn't play much defense. I guess that's where Mac Brown coached most of his life. Didn't play much defense there either, apparently. So,
I also think, and you said it too. I also think that part of the issue with him at UNC is the talent. You know what I mean? Like, he might have a really good defensive coordinator, and they might be decent. You know what I mean? As far as that's concerned, they just don't have the talent to really implement the scheme they want to run.
Right, and that could be part of it too. It's amazing though. If you want to talk talent wise, boy, they recruit them offensively though. I mean, boy, they bring in tons of fucking wide receivers that are good. Hampton, the running back, you got Drake May. It's weird, yeah. Recruit some people on the defensive side of the ball. Then that kind of helps you win bowl games. Also, put you in some of those better bowl games.
Don't get us started on the ACC and bowl games here, man.
Whoa.
Too soon.
Too soon.
We got Louisville and USC. I mean, I would probably lean Louisville just because half of USC is going to the draft or in the NFL right now, right? Or in the portal, I should say.
Yeah, I bet on USC money line as well tonight. I'm full sending it tonight. I don't know what it is with Louisville. I think USC. Who's USC playing at quarterback tonight? Who's the backup to Caleb Williams? Who is it? Do you know?
Well, I know one of their backups. It was was it Malachi Nelson? I think he's in the portal.
Yeah, but he was not the backup this year. It's this Miller Moss kid. Who the hell is this dude?
Well, I think he's pretty good from what I remember. I think Miller Moss is all right. They always recruit. It's Lincoln Riley. They always get top quarterbacks.
I just want to see see what he does. We'll see what happens. Though defense is going to be played by USC. We know that.
Texas A&M, Oklahoma State, another one of those kind of games where I think under most circumstances, under normal circumstances, Texas A&M and USC, I'd probably pick them to win those games. With half of A&M's roster in the portal, they're reeling. They're trying to figure some stuff out. I think Oklahoma State did a better job at kind of keeping their roster together. I think and plus they also have their coach in Mike Gundy too.
Yeah. I think you got it. I'm taking Oklahoma State tonight for sure.
Virginia Tech, Tulane. Now, when I was picking this game, I picked Tulane. And Virginia Tech surprised the hell out of me, as I'm sure they probably surprised a lot of people.
Probably Tulane. When I looked this morning, their head coach is gone. Pratt's not playing. Like literally half their roster was not playing in this game. That's why Vatek was favored by 11 points when it closed. So I did watch that game. Tulane looked like a team. It didn't even resemble a football team today. Honestly, it looks like they weren't playing anybody that had played the last 2 years.
We talked about Mizzou, Ohio State. You think they've got a really good shot at beating Ohio State, the Devin Brown-led Ohio State. I think that's not a crazy take there. Penn State, Ole Miss. This is a very interesting one to me.
I'm going to piss off the Big Ten people. I don't fucking care anymore because Michigan people seem to be getting on my nerves lately. I actually think Ole Miss wins this game.
Okay.
That's Christian. What's your take? Who do you think? Should be a good game.
I think Penn State, but I think, next year Ole Miss will be better on defense. I mean, especially what they're pulling out of the portal. I think they got guys all over the place here, and this is where it gets kind of sloppy trying to project this. I mean, I can tell you right now, Ole Miss's defense this year has not been very good. Now, they did get a big 30, they got a big break, and so maybe they were able to put some stuff together, so we'll see. I think Penn State's offense is going to be able to make this a shootout with them.
I want Penn State to win. I do in my heart, but Penn State, man, something about them this year. They really disappointed me. Maybe that's my heart getting too involved in it, but I don't know, dude. Something didn't click with Drew Aller this year. They didn't look as near as good as what I thought they were going to, especially offensively, right? They got Singleton. They got what's his name back there as well, running back. They should be able to put up some points on Ole Miss, though. If they don't, they got a problem going into next year, because Penn State doesn't lose a lot, by the way, next year.
No, they do not. They definitely don't. Ole Miss is going to gain a lot next year too. So that would be a pretty good playoff matchup, in a 12-team setting right there.
Mm-hmm.
Something we might end up seeing.
Yeah.
Georgia versus Florida State. We kind of touched on it a little bit. It'll probably be a bloodbath, just simply because Georgia's getting back more than Florida State is. I know a lot of, Georgia's had some departures too. They've had some people jump in the portal. But Florida State also has lost a shit ton of starters, whereas I think Georgia lost more rotational pieces.
Yeah, like I said, we touched on it. It kind of sucks because I wish both teams were. I wish this was a 12-team playoff game. That's what I wish. I think this would be an interesting game. I do, just to see how Florida State stacks up. And let's say Jordan Travis wasn't hurt either, man. I actually think Florida State would play you guys pretty tough. I do. I'm not saying they would win, but if they were fully healthy, it could be a pretty good football game.
Oh, no, I absolutely agree with you. I think it would be, and that's what you'd want to see. You'd want to see, Carson Beck, Amarius Mims. You'd want to see, Brock Bowers playing for Georgia. Like you said, you'd want to see Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson and Trey Benson and Jordan Travis. You'd want to see all these guys playing. But, here we are. We can thank the ACC and Big 12 commissioner for that, for screwing us out of that matchup. Yeah. Oregon versus Liberty.
I'm sorry. I'm not laughing at Liberty. They've had a great year. I've watched them play a ton, actually, believe it or not, when you're a degenerate and gamble like I do during the week. But Oregon should be playing somebody else. Give me Oregon, Missouri, or don't get me wrong. I don't mind the Missouri-Ohio State matchup. I think that's great. Give me Oregon versus Tennessee. I don't know, something other than this Liberty game. Oregon by 3 touchdowns.
I think they could have pulled Dante Moore out of that portal a week ago and started him in this game, and I still think they would win that.
Yeah, I do. And it's nothing against Liberty, but it's just, come on.
Georgia Southern gets rocked by Ohio. That shocks me. That just shocks me because I'm so high on Georgia Southern.
Yeah, that's your boys down there.
Jacksonville State, they actually had a pretty damn good season, dude. They beat Louisiana in overtime there.
They did.
Appalachian State, I mean, they're a tough team. I know it was a Miami of Ohio.
They were pretty good this year too. Miami, Ohio was.
Yeah. Who was it they played? They played, was it A&M? Or Miami, was it?
They played Miami, and that was actually a game for a little bit. But then, Miami, Ohio fucked up and walked out on the field and said, "We're the real Miami."
Oh,
yeah, one of those deals. Their quarterback did. I watched that game. I was like, that might be the dumbest thing you could say walking into Miami, and then you know what happens.
Yeah. I should have bet on Miami to win that game, right? Just a Miami to win.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, Fresno State beats New Mexico State 37-10. Wow. UCLA trounced Boise State there. I mean, basically just looking at all these games. I think this, to me, was the surprising one. South Florida versus Syracuse.
Yeah, poor Syracuse. But Syracuse is I know nobody really, they don't have anybody really left after they fired Babbers right at the end of the year. Do
Yeah.
you know whatever the hell his name is? Yeah, now they got they've done really well in the transfer portal though. God damn, they got some people coming there.
Yeah, they're going to probably put the ACC on notice. I think next year in a very quick turnaround. Yeah, they got some pieces. They got a Kyle McCord.
Yeah, hopefully he doesn't regret his decision. I still think he should have went to Nebraska, but that's just me.
Oh well, hey, he's going to an easier conference, right, in the ACC.
Yeah. Oh, don't say that about ACC. ACC people are going to get in the comment section and type. Don't worry.
Oh, I bet, all the Clemsons of the world this year, the Louisvilles that couldn't beat a third string quarterback. I mean, yeah,
don't, man. They're a sensitive group down there.
Georgia Tech, speaking of the ACC, how about Georgia Tech putting it on UCF?
Dude, that I watched that whole game. Brent Key's got some. I like that guy, man. I know you laugh because you're a big time Georgia fan, and I know you guys like to shit all over Georgia Tech all the time. But good for them, man. I'll tell you what, man. I think they're going to be decent in the ACC in a year or two. I truly believe that. They actually had a pretty good year this year.
Oh yeah, dude. How about Northwestern and Minnesota taking care of business?
I loved it. I took Northwestern in that game. Let's go.
Good. Took Utah, but I also took Utah before I realized that all of their quarterbacks would probably be in the portal. I think Bryson Barnes played in this game, but still.
Yeah.
Kansas, I don't know. Kansas is one of those teams next year that if they can retain some pieces, which I think they are from what I was reading, that they got a really good shot.
Them and I think Texas Tech will be two of the teams that'll benefit the most by Texas and Oklahoma moving out.
Well, we looked at it. Yeah, and K-State. Mm-hmm. We touched on it a little bit. The playoffs. I mean, they're here. Chris, Michigan and Texas, or Michigan and Alabama, I should say. That was those were two fan bases we didn't know we could piss off.
Oh man, if you guys haven't, check that video out. Just scroll down to the comment section. Holy shit, it's a bloodbath in there. You got people defending the hell out of the cheating and saying everybody in the planet, Bama's been doing it since the 70s, and we got other people on here saying Michigan, who the hell are they? Have never won anything. It's pretty interesting. Christian, would you change your pick a day later at all? Or
hell no, I wouldn't.
That's what I like to see. You're still rolling with Bama, so am I. By the way, we got called. What that one guy said that we just pay attention to every major news outlet. We don't do any individual thinking on our own. So I guess whatever that means.
Well, you do. I don't know about me.
I do. I'm talking about, bro. No, but I mean, that dumbass though, if we would think about it, actually, Michigan is the favorite in this game. I mean, they are.
Yeah,
and it's been sitting there for quite a while that way. There's plenty of people in the world on Michigan. Don't get me wrong. So
well, and it's funny too because like you said, Michigan's the favorite, and so is Texas in both their games, respectfully. And we picked against the grain in there mainly because. Look, Michigan having to play Alabama, it's hard fought to go against Nick Saban. I get a lot of people feel pissed off and they feel wronged because of the whole Harbaugh situation. It's Michigan, it's us versus the world, basically, and I get that. However, we all saw the reaction Michigan had when they figured out they were playing Alabama. And a lot of people are going to say, well, it's because they were surprised that it wasn't Florida State. And it's like, well, part of it was that. The other part of it was you realize you got to go through that buzzsaw that nobody wants to play in the playoffs.
Right. But in this game, you're not wrong, is that for me, give Nick Saban a month to prepare. Mm-hmm. I'm taking him every time. I don't give a fuck who he's playing against, right? I don't care if it would have been other than maybe Georgia and Kirby Smart. Do I think Jim Harbaugh's a bad coach? No, but I don't think he's even near the level of Nick Saban. I truly don't as far as coaching goes. And Nick Saban is proved over and over when he's been in the playoffs how many freaking times that he majority of the time wins. And what have we seen out of Michigan the last 2 years of the playoffs?
Yeah, it's been they haven't been able to get it done. It's like they fold when they get in that game. It's like Ohio State folds when they play Michigan last
Yeah.
3 years.
Yeah, and I'll say this too, Christian, is that it seems like the longer Michigan has to prepare for a game, the worse they look.
Exactly.
That's what I've really noticed about them. And I'm not trying to create a narrative here or pick on Michigan, but recent history has shown that with Harbaugh. They should have never gotten beat by TCU last year. I don't care what anybody says. TCU, great season. They deserve to be in the playoffs for what they did with the undefeated season, but they should have had no chance in that game.
My question
looked
is,
like they never played football before in that game.
We touched on this. This is a matchup we never even thought about talking about. Oregon versus Michigan. Who'd win that game?
You really want to know? Neutral field?
Yeah.
I'm taking Oregon.
I can't disagree with that.
I'm taking Oregon, man. I am uber high on Oregon, but I know everybody's well. You guys don't know anything. Washington destroyed them twice. Yeah. Well,
no, I think Oregon was one of the most complete teams this year. I think the problem with it was when they played Washington. It was bad coaching in the first game, and I think Dan Lanning got in his own head. And I honestly think, the same way for Kirby Smart, how Alabama kind of lives rent-free in our head, I think Washington lives rent-free in Oregon's head,
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I agree, though. That would be a good game, and we're going to get plenty of Michigan versus Oregon in the future. But I actually think I like Oregon, and I'm going to say, you know why? And if anybody comments on this, and then they would say you guys are just idiots, I'm sure. But who is really Michigan played?
Yeah.
Who? Outside of Ohio State, who?
Penn State. But, arguably Penn State is, they're – if Penn State had to play other people other than just always having to play, Ohio State, Michigan, which they haven't really beaten, in a while, then what would they be? You go drop Penn State, let's say over in the SEC West, how would they do there?
That was exactly where I was going with this. I don't think they're any better than a Kentucky. Yeah. I really don't. A Kentucky or maybe a little bit better Kentucky. I don't know if we're going to find out when they play Ole Miss, but the only problem is half people ain't playing and all that crap. But I don't think Penn State is they're a great team in the Big Ten, but nobody can name 3 teams in the Big Ten outside of those 3 big teams. Seriously. I'm with you. Michigan to me, their strength of schedule is a joke. They don't play anybody the first 9 or 10 games of the season. And yes, they beat Ohio State, who I don't think Ohio State's a bad team, but really what is Ohio State too?
Right. It was Kyle McCord. Obviously there was a drop off. There was a regression with Kyle McCord. I think we can all agree with that. Do I think, Kyle McCord, I look at Ohio State and Kyle McCord in the same token that I looked at, Clemson going from Trevor Lawrence to DJ Ukulele, which I know I just fucked that name up, but you know what I'm saying for real though. Yep. It's like, DJ wasn't a bad quarterback at Clemson. It was just the expectations were so high of what he had to do. You go look at any other team other than Georgia, Alabama, whoever have you, let's just throw it in here, right? Let's say Texas, which they did have a 12-1 season this year, right? Are we going to sit here and say Quinn Ewers, he had a bad season?
No,
he didn't. So, it's all about perspective. I really believe with that. So, yeah, I just find it really tough to see that though.
Yeah. No, and I guess that's my point too. I just find it hard to believe that Michigan, if they were dropped in the SEC or dropped in even the Pac-12 this year, especially the upper half of the Pac-12, I don't think they come out of that thing unscathed. I just don't. I think a lot of the Big Ten, and trust me, I watch a lot of Big Ten football, is a lot of teams with good defenses and just zero offenses. A majority of them have piss poor offenses. You can ask me in Nebraska here. All you got to do is go look at the stats at the end of the year, and there's 7, 8, 9 Big Ten teams in the bottom 30 offensively. Yeah. But then you got the other guy go, well, it's because the defenses are so great, Chris. Yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah, I mean, we saw. I mean, look, I think here's the thing. I think Michigan has a really good offense. Do I think they have like a top? They're not lighting the world on fire with their
No.
offense. They still figured out a way to put up 20 some odd points. What 26 points against Iowa?
Mhm.
And
Yep.
Iowa all year was being, Iowa all year was being, ranted and raved about. They have one of the best defenses in the country. It's like, look, when they played Penn State, when they played these teams that actually have decent offenses, they get put 20, 30 points
Yeah,
on them.
yeah. Penn State put 35 on them, or 33-0, wherever the hell that score that was. I want to say this though. I do want to see this, and then I'll finally come on air in a minute. And I want to bring up a guy who happens to be the name of JJ McCarthy. I've
Yeah.
gotten a lot of heat all year because I don't think he's an elite quarterback. I don't, and I want to see what happens, and I hope it happens in this game. And like I said, I have really no skin in this game. I don't. I'm not an Alabama fan by any means. I'm sure as hell not a Michigan fan. But what happens if Bama gets up by 10 or 14 early? Can he throw his way back into a game? I want to see it.
You bring up a good point. Some of the videos that we put out, I think it was mainly that Big Ten championship preview game. But a lot of people were telling us, well, McCarthy, they were kind of defending him in a way, and it was the narrative was, well, McCarthy, he hasn't really been asked to do a lot this year, right? Because he hasn't needed to. And when we need him to, he'll turn it on. And I think honestly, that's part of why Michigan loses these damn games in the playoffs, is because they run through their schedule. They beat a Penn State or Ohio State, in the Big Ten, and then they get to the playoffs and they need this guy to do something. They need they play a Georgia or a TCU, and they're in this shootout, and they can't keep pace with them because J.J. McCarthy hasn't had to shoot out with anybody in a long time. I mean, look at the game against Penn State this year. They ran the ball, 30 straight times to end that game, pretty much?
The second half did not throw a single time.
How's that going to roll for you if you get down 14 to 3 against Alabama? You think running it 33 straight times against Alabama, and the defensive savant that Nick Saban is going to be is going to go well for you? Fuck no. I'll just answer that question for myself.
No, well, thank you, because every idiot on the planet over there in Michigan seems to think that J.J. McCarthy is the next Tom Brady. I don't understand it because I haven't seen it. Do I think J.J. McCarthy is a bad quarterback? No, I don't. He's got a good set of legs. He can run, and I think he does well enough in that offense. But if anybody's watched Michigan, they bully ball you. That's what they do. That's why they got the two running backs there, in Edwards and Blake Corum, man.
Corum, yeah.
Yeah, I just want to see if he's down. And then one idiot made a comment, oh, you don't have to prove anything to you guys. Well, he might have to prove it to somebody like Jim Harbaugh when they're down to 14-3, because like you said, Christian, they haven't done it. They in that TCU game last year, by the way, he turned the ball over 2 or 3 times in that game. Costly turnovers. 2 of them were pick sixes. So I want to see in this game, if they do get down overall, can he throw his way back into a game? I'm not saying he can't. I'm not saying he can. I just want to see it, and that will tell me, okay, man, that maybe this kid is projected to be, a first-round pick like everybody's talking about.
It's no different than me going to the combine and not running a good 40 time. Me running like a 5', a 5'2" 40, and then saying, well, you can't really use that because like in a game situation, my adrenaline's going to kick in, and I'll be able to run a 4.7 40. I'll be able to outrun, Jordan Davis or somebody like that. It's like, no, I'm not doing that. You know what I mean? That's not how it works. You got to be able to prove it. That's why we have all this stuff in place. So, believe it or not, I think we were talking about it. Jalen Milroe has had a far better season, by the way, than
yes.
Than J.J. McCarthy. And I wasn't even particularly that impressed with Jalen Milroe for most of the season.
No, I agree. Jalen Milroe, to me, he definitely does. He's pretty much that whole offense for Alabama this year. I mean, he does everything, whether it's with his legs, extends plays. He does throw a really good deep ball. He struggles with the intermediate routes, short routes, but he's improved, and he's proved me wrong, man. I made fun of him a lot earlier in the year in this offseason, but he's come along. And you guys look at the stats, and I know the stats don't tell everything, but he's had a really good season, though. And mind you, Alabama's played some teams this year, unlike Michigan, in my opinion.
Well, but look at their last 4. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Yeah, can't compare them to them.
Yeah, don't even get me started on that guy.
Texas versus Washington. To me, this is the most interesting game out of all these, out of the first 2 of them. just because I feel like neither one of them have playoff experience.
Yeah. I was thinking about this one last night. I know we made our predictions yesterday.
Mhm.
And I don't know why. Like, to me, this game's a coin flip. Like, it truly is a coin flip to me. I could see either of these two teams, one of these teams winning. And, after it was kind of interesting watching this video be put out. There's a ton of Texas fans, obviously, butthurt that we didn't take Texas in that one. But Christian, do you think, if Texas wins this game, would you be surprised? Would it surprise you if Texas came out here and let's say they won by, I think the spread's 6 right now. Would it shock you if they went out and won by 2 touchdowns? Let's put it that way.
No, with this game, nothing surprises me.
Okay.
Just because I feel like we touched on it earlier, the playoff, neither one of them have like playoff experience, right? And so I feel like, if this was a game against like Ohio State versus Texas, or if it was a game like Clemson, dare I say, versus, not the Clemson this year, but let's maybe say last year's Clemson with DJ. I feel like teams that have coaches and players that have actual playoff experience, it would be a different story. Because both of them don't, anything can happen. You know what I mean? Like it's almost like a conference championship game in a way, like where we saw Texas come out and stomp, Oklahoma State. Like the energy, if it's, we saw it last year with Georgia and TCU, and then we saw it with Michigan and TCU last year, right? Where that playoff experience really didn't matter in that particular game. But Michigan, for whatever reason, just came out flat. It's like they didn't have their signs or something like that. I don't know. And they got ran off the field. By the time they finally were able to pull it back together and make it a shootout, TCU was able to hold on and win. But for this particular game, nothing shocks me. I think Washington has had the tougher road to get here. And we touched on this. Texas played Bama early in the season. The Bama team they beat on the road in Tuscaloosa is not the same Bama team that's in this playoffs. I don't care what anybody says. They looked offensively, they were out of rhythm. Milroe turned the ball over. Texas was able to take advantage of their defense. They have gotten much better as the year has gone on. And so you said it best. I think it really is Nick Saban's best coaching job, Chris.
Yeah, I'll add on to this too. And the reason, like I said, this game wouldn't shock me with the Texas-Washington game, but I don't know what it is with Washington, man. Every time it seems like you want to count them out. And maybe that's just me personally, because I bet on them 3 times this year to lose, and they've won all 3 of those games. I think I can't remember the other one. Both times were against Oregon, but it just seems to me that Washington might, how there's that team like TCU, last year kind of destined. I just feel like Washington could be the team this year to get to the national title and get there. And I think their offense is really good. I do. I think Michael Penix is an elite quarterback. I think Odudze is one of the best receivers in the country. I can't think of the other kid they got on the other side of him. He's elite too. And the running game is really good. I think this game, though, and I said this yesterday, and I'll say it again, Christian, defensively, can they slow down Texas? Texas's offense, to me, last time they played, I'm not putting a ton on that Oklahoma State game, but they've been one of the top 5 offenses all year pretty much. I mean, they kind of do whatever they want. Quinn Ewers, you give him time back there. They're going to throw the ball deep to any 3 or 4 of those receivers. If Washington can play some defense, and I think they can, I'm leaning Washington here, man. And I think coaching, I think you would agree, Christian, Sarkisian versus, Kalen DeBoer, I think it's pretty equal, right? I mean, both these coaches have never coached in a game like this before. I think they're both very good coaches, up and coming in the ranks, in college football. So I don't think I could lean one way there coaching, but who would you say is better, Michael Penix or Quinn Ewers?
Michael Penix.
Okay. That's why I'm leaning Washington.
Listen, I think Quinn Ewers is a good quarterback, right? I think the problem with Ewers is, and it's happened 2 years in a row now, is he gets a lot of momentum. He has like a lot of things going right for him. He shows you a lot of those flashes. Then he gets banged up and he gets hurt. And then it's like he goes out, and then they have to play a couple games without him. He comes back, and he has to rebuild all that momentum up, and it's tough to do as a quarterback, right? Especially when you're jumping back into it middle of the season. We know how chaotic the Big 12 gets. It's insane. By the way, Dan, good to see you back, buddy. Happy belated Christmas to you as well.
Merry Christmas, Dan.
Guys have a good New Year. But I mean, for me, I'd rather have Michael Penix. I mean, the guy's been around football a lot longer.
Oh,
I mean, how long? I mean, what, he was at Indiana a few years ago, right? Now he's gone on and had like a whole secondary Stetson Bennett-esque career at Washington. I mean, so
yeah, this, like I said, you're right though. I agree with you. I think Penix is the better quarterback. Obviously, he's got more experience. I think Penix has got a little something to prove with not winning the Heisman as well, man. I think he goes out there and he lights it up. I truly do. I think this game, I think it'll be a higher scoring game, definitely, than the Alabama-Michigan game. But I think this is going to be a good one, man. It seems like Washington. One thing I will say about Washington, I gave them shit all year playing a lot of these close games. But sometimes that's a good thing. It takes some skill to win some close games. They talk about in the NFL, learning how to win close games. Look at the Minnesota Vikings this year. They've lost a ton of games by 3 points. Look at the Huskers. If you want to make a real analogy, they can't win a close game.
Yeah.
Washington's good at it. If this game's close, man, I'm taking Washington. It's proven to me over Oregon several times. Oregon State was a close game. I can't think of the other couple games that were really.
Was it Arizona?
I think was it Arizona? Or Arizona State played them really tough too, I think. But it just seems to me that Washington's kind of got a lot of luck on their side, and sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, Christian.
Penix was a 3-star coming out of high school.
It's crazy. Yeah.
I mean, it just goes to show you. I mean, even the guys that do this for a living, they don't know jack shit about what they're looking for.
Kind of like my co-host.
Yeah, well, by God, hey, I mean, at least one of us does.
Yeah, I know. I'm out here. I don't even watch football. That's what everybody keeps telling me on this channel.
Well, it's because you're so damn old, Chris. I mean, you wear those damn sunglasses. You know what I mean? Because you got
hater
cataracts.
blockers, Christian.
You can call them hater blockers, but let's be honest. You get the flashing lights at nighttime. You need to have cataracts or corrective surgery performed because of your old age. We all know that.
No, it's for those Colorado fans, those Deion Sanders simps I can't stand. I couldn't take it anymore this year, Christian. And by the way, Colorado went 4-6, or 4-7, or 4-8, whatever the fuck they were, just like I predicted. So,
you bring up a good point about that, Chris. I mean, as far as Colorado is concerned, they're number 2 right now in the transfer portal. I think last year they were number 1.
Yeah.
And so a good thing they did that, because they finished 99th or 98th or something like that in actual recruiting.
Yeah, it was terrible. Christian, I want to ask you a real serious question here, and no pun intended to the Colorado man, if you will. Is Deion Sanders done after this coming year in 2024?
Is he done?
Yeah, is he leaving? His son's going to go to the NFL after next year. We know that.
Well, I think it depends on.
You think he's?
I truly think it depends on what happens. Now their road's going to get a little bit easier because they're going to the Big 12.
Yep.
I mean, he could mess around this year and end up, if he wins the Big 12 this year, they're going to have a lot of pieces. They're going to have a lot of experience. I think personally their defense is getting better. They're bringing in some pieces to get the defense better. I also think their offensive line, which at times was a problem for them, they're getting that sorted out. They're bringing in a new coaching staff, going to an easier conference. I think he could jump ship. Like I said, I think for me, he would have to, because like everyone's saying, once his son goes to the NFL, I think he might jet to the NFL too. For example, let's say, I'm just going to throw a name out there. Let's say the Falcons don't pick a quarterback this year, and we all know that's a good chance they don't. Arthur Smith, I mean, there's rumors now he was on the hot seat, right? Depending on how he finished this year off. He messes around, they don't take a quarterback, and they still look like shit. Imagine Deion going back and being the coach of the Atlanta Falcons with Shedeur Sanders. You're saying no way, but wait until it happens.
Sanders isn't a head coach. He's a team mom over there, dude. He's sitting there with his gold shades on and that gold whistle or whatever the hell that thing is. He doesn't coach.
Well, so do you, basically. I mean, you guys are identical twins.
I could scream into the mic at people like you that don't know what they're talking about at times. There's no way that Deion's going to coach in the NFL, dude. I don't even think he's a good coach in college. Personally,
Well,
I think he's a really good recruiter.
Well, here's the thing. I think Deion, to me, honestly, I think Deion probably be a better NFL coach than he would be a high or a college coach.
You got to actually know X's
Because,
and O's, bro.
well, I think he's a good. How do I want to put this? I think Deion is a better acquirer of talent. You know what I'm saying? And in the NFL, you got to get the talent. If now, one thing Deion did that I liked was, his actual coordinators weren't bad. I don't think.
No.
Like Sean Lewis and
he got rid of his best coordinator, pissed him off in the middle of the season, which was dumb.
He did. He definitely did do that. I'm not saying, look, I'm not even trying to be on that whole train of agreeing with everything Deion's done. There's been a lot of stuff that I didn't like. But I think, I've seen Deion, kind of in some of the, media, making his rounds back in the media. And I think this year kind of humbled him a little bit, right? And it's more of something I can get behind. I actually am pulling for him. I know you are too. But the one thing I can tell you, when Deion starts getting quiet and when he starts being humbled, that's when you got to get worried, right? When he's more out there promoting and doing all that stuff that he was doing, coming out of Jackson State, going into the Colorado thing, that's a little different.
Yeah, I'm just not sold that he's a head coach, I guess. And like I said, we're all entitled to our opinion about him or anything for that matter. I do think he's a hell of a recruiter. I think he relates to kids, young kids, very well. He's proven that. I don't know, man. To me, I see him jumping ship next year when Shador's out. I see Colorado falling right back into the dumpster they crawled out of. And wherever he goes, man, I don't know. I mean, yes, does it help that Colorado's in the Big 12 next year? I agree. Yeah. But I still don't think they win the Big 12 next year. I just don't. I think they'll be competitive. I think they make a bowl game next year. I mean, there's going to be a lot of moving pieces yet before 2024's recruiting and all that shit and final rosters are all said and done. But I don't know.
I think it depends too. I mean, if he can get another elite quarterback, in there, I mean, it's possible. Like I said, I mean, it's possible.
Yeah. We'll see. Time will tell with him.
Listen, you dress just like him. I would have to think that you're trying to emulate him.
Yeah, I ain't hard to find.
Well, that is one way to describe it, I feel like.
I don't dress just like him. Get the hell out of here with that. You think there ain't a single piece of gear in my house that has Colorado on it, for one. I can guarantee
I feel like you told me you had a Colorado jersey, Chris.
No, I do not have a Colorado jersey. No.
Oh, well. Well, we can't all be winners like you, Chris.
That's a mentality, Christian. It's a mentality. It's a mentality, my man. Someday you'll learn, son. You'll understand.
Well, using the son method there, I mean, I am probably young enough to be your son.
Not quite. I would have had to have a kid at like 8 or 9 years old, Christian.
Well, anything's possible.
Well, you're an awfully big kid, if that's the case.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Chris, we're approaching the 50-minute mark here. I think for the Wednesday show, this was a pretty damn good show. I mean, it feels good. We've kind of been, it's the weird part of the year where we kind of step back and we talked a little bit about it. And to be honest, I don't think we really get excited about talking about some of these lower echelon bowl games. It means a lot for the schools and, the 5 kids that didn't enter the transfer portal that are playing in them. But for us, it just doesn't really get us excited. I mean, now we've got some more stuff, but even some of these major schools like the, USCs and the Penn States and the Ole Misses, all those schools, there's a ton of opt-outs. And so the optimism for us is it's not there. I think we'll probably jump back on next Wednesday, kind of rehash some of the playoff games and see how that all went and kind of break it down, give our analysis on it, and look forward to the championship.
Yeah. And by the way, thanks, guys, for all joining in. You guys that are left, appreciate you chiming in, or even, by the way, Merry Christmas. Happy New Year from us over here. Be safe out there. Also, like I said, Christian said we'll be back on Wednesday. We'll talk, like I said, by the way, a lot of the good bowl games start kind of the night and then throughout the rest of the year. So that should be fun to watch. We'll have a little more info and insight on those. So, anyway, that's all I got. We'll see you guys on Wednesday.
Hey, Chris, where can you TTM?
I would like a pair of those sunglasses autographed. Yeah, no, you don't. No, thanks, Dave. They're Oakleys. They're about $100. They're nothing too crazy.
He was talking to me, I mean, my name is Christian, I can't give you these. They're prescription glasses. I don't have to block all the haters.
Are you
out on
actually
crystals.
blind without your glasses?
Legally, yeah, probably.
God, I'm gonna take this sometime.
Oh well, good. There you go. Now I have to look out for Grand Theft over there.